Today we discuss nomad working. This is moderated by Allison, and we have Jason, Sarah, and our experienced personnel officer and conflict advisor, Donald.
Thanks. I am Allison. With modern technology, we can work from almost anywhere. Laptops, mobile phones, VPN. Are any of you working remotely? Let you start with Sarah.
I work for an advertising company in downtown Los Angeles. Before the pandemic, we typically did 4 days at the office and then 1, sometimes 2 days from home or wherever. I am originally from the UK, as you probably can hear, and when I go back, sometimes I use like a long weekend such as Labor Day, take an extra 2 days working remotely from London. Slight issue with the time difference, but else totally fine. Then the pandemic hit, and we went to work 100% from home for over 2 years. My mother got ill in 2021, and I went to stay and care for her for the better part of a year. She recovered, and I am back here in the USA.
That is an interesting story. Did you tell your employer that you were in the UK?
When she first got sick, yes, I did, and they had no problem with it. We are results, target-focused, so everything gets measured in advertising sales. So as long as I keep my targets, I could work from the moon. That is what my boss told me when I asked. We have thankfully never been a 9-to-5 business either. I didn't have to worry about Mum, and I could work.
I actually did something similar. I am a software developer, and when we were working remotely during the pandemic, I moved in with my long-distance girlfriend in Houston, Texas. I lived with my parents in San Francisco before. Now I am back in San Francisco as the CEO of the company has given us the ultimatum to return to the office this week, or we are out of a job. I am actively looking for a new job.
I hope that you find a new job. Let's check in with our personnel expert, Donald, on how companies and if there are tax and other such implications.
Thank you, Allison. So with technology, we have many great opportunities, and I think that it is sad that some employers cling on to the past. But if an employer demands that their employees have to go into an office, there's nothing that employees can do but to find another job if this is unsuitable for them. A workaround may be for larger companies with many offices in different locations to try and pick one closer to home. As for tax implications, for within the USA you pay your taxes where you live, that is where you are a resident. In the case of Jason, where he was registered at his parents' address, but actually lived with his girlfriend in another state, this becomes a bit more interesting to work out. Technically, it is where you spend your time, where you should also be a resident, but this can be harder to prove by the state. So in practice, Jason could have kept being registered at his parents' address if he wanted to. I will advise that if you do live somewhere else, that you look at also being a resident there. When you spend 183 or more days in one state, then become a tax resident of that state.
Thanks, Donald. What about working in other countries?
So now it gets really interesting. The tax rules I mentioned for U.S. states this is pretty much the same. 183 or more days, and you are considered a tax resident. That is if you have legal rights to work and live in this country. Sarah, who lived and worked from the UK, could technically be a legal UK tax resident and pay her taxes there. Many countries have tax treaties, including USA and UK, so there wouldn't be much of anything to pay in USA. This is, however, best avoided. It is an administrative nightmare for personnel and payroll to suddenly have to try and pay taxes and other fees in other countries. Most actually won't do it. The simple solution there is to spend less than 183 days in that country. This is all in theory too. In practice, the authorities in most countries won't find out or even care. Allison could happily stay on her U.S. payroll and pay U.S. federal and California state taxes and nothing in the UK. The complications which may arise are for things like health and childcare. Many countries demand that you are a tax-paying resident to access such services, especially in Europe. You could schedule doctor's visits and such when you are home.
Are there any issues with working? Like when you travel as a tourist visitor, it usually says employment prohibited and such.
Well, you are generally not allowed to take up work in the country. You are going to, without the appropriate visas. Here, though, you bring your job with you. You are not taking the job from a local. Legally, this comes up to where the job is performed. If you are connected back to your company via VPN, for instance, then you can argue that that is where the job is performed. I can see that some countries could make this into an issue, and there is no reason to notify any authorities as all work and taxes are done in your home country. There are some other implications to take into account. Any workplace insurance will be wholly or part void. There may be insurance companies who can cover you for work assets taken with you abroad. There are considerations on data regulations also. For instance, if you handle personal data of customers, clients, European countries have strict rules around data, and you may not take data outside of the European Union without the customer's expressed permission. So a Spanish worker who has customer personal data on his laptop and takes it to say the USA is doing something illegal and will lose his job at the very least. People who work for governments, say you work for the U.S. Department of Defense, you probably shouldn't go and work from China. For most regular jobs, thought a month or a few months is likely okay. And for shorter times, you probably don't even need to bother HR. Keep in mind that employers can quite easily find out where you are connecting from. When you access corporate systems, your IP address will be revealed. Now, there are ways around that too, but I don't want to encourage breaking company rules in this forum.
I found a job in Sweden which is 100% remote. I am thinking of taking that and then work from Texas. Would that work?
For that, you will probably need to get a Swedish work visa. Those are possible, but will probably also require Swedish residency. You could ask the company if they would be willing to employ you as a remote contractor based in the USA. That is the preferred option. Then your taxes will be in the USA, and there will be no issues with work permits.
Won't governments and unions crack down on hiring foreign contractors?
They sometimes try. Not this only results in companies moving their whole operation abroad. India is a popular place for IT outsourcing. If the Swedish company hires one U.S. contractor, the majority of colleagues are still in Sweden supporting the local economy and taxation system. Companies should have this flexibility. In some places, it is stricter. China, for instance. Sweden is a relatively market-liberal country when it comes to these things and has a very profitable IT sector, which brings in revenue to the country.
My company has recently expanded back at home in the UK, and they have some jobs there. I am tempted to actually move back properly.
What is your current situation with regards to your work visa? L1, I presume.
I have been here for 4 years now.
The L1 is actually one of the few visas which allows you credit time towards a U.S. citizenship. That is after 5 years. I strongly encourage you to stay in the USA for at least another year, apply for U.S. citizenship, and then you have options. Else you forfeit that chance, and returning to the USA anytime soon can be hard or nearly impossible.
I did not realize. Thanks. That is some crucial advice. Yes, whilst I am homesick now, who knows how I will feel on a cold November evening, waiting for the bus in rain in London.
Indeed. I have seen people actually get homesick back for here.
I was thinking that I could get around the employment regulations by registering a limited company in Spain or UK and employ myself.
Your company still needs their workers, that is you, to be legally allowed to work in the country. The company can employ people in other countries, however, though this depends on your agency and clients. Many agencies check that they are dealing with nationals of their country. But yes, technically, you could set up a UK limited company, get a contract for a client, and then work from home in the USA for your UK clients. I do not see a problem with this. This is no different than companies who offshore to use Indian workers. It does seem like a lot of hassle, and given that the US jobs market is better than that of most of Europe, including the UK, this trouble is not worth it.
So in practical terms, if you have landed a job which allows to work from anywhere, what countries can we recommend?
I'd like to draw your attention to nomad visas. Many countries now specifically offers inexpensive visas designed for people who bring their jobs with them and want to stay in a country. Most of these do not count towards citizenship, but is still a good way to do this. The list keeps expanding. For now, I will give you top 5, but there are many more. Namibia was one of the early countries to specifically provide a visa for working nomads. Income requirements are modest at $2,000 a month. This visa costs $62 and is valid for 6 months. The country is relatively peaceful, not very busy, and with beautiful scenery. It is located north of South Africa. Spain is a popular choice. It is warm, friendly, relatively inexpensive, and you have many beautiful locations to choose from, such as Costa del Sol, Balearic Islands, and the Canary Islands off the coast of Africa. The minimum monthly income requirement for Spain is $2,500 per month. Malta, also in the Mediterranean, is another popular destination. Warm, friendly, and easygoing place. The minimum monthly income is currently $3,001, and the visa costs $364. Staying in the Mediterranean, Greece also a nice climate too, and has inexpensive living. The minimum monthly income is $3,891, and the visa costs $350. Let's fly over the ocean westwards to Costa Rica, another country with a beautiful scenery and nice climate. Minimum income requirement is $3,000 a month, and the visa costs $99. Finally, I'd like to mention South Korea, a vibrant, exciting culture. The income requirement is one of the highest, measured annually at $64,000. The visa costs $45. There are many other countries, such as Italy, Finland, and Thailand. So this is another great way to experience and work from another country completely legally for longer than most tourist visas.
Thanks, team. We are just about of time for this program. Any final points from anyone?
I will just leave some links to sites with useful information in the description.
Thanks, team. I think we will wrap it up there. Thanks to our viewers for watching this clip. Comment below to join the discussion. Please remember not to share any personal details about yourself or other people. Take care